let's get straight to the point. What happened last night wasn't just physical. It wasn't just two people meeting in a moment. It left something behind. A trace. A shift. A feeling you can't shake. Even if you tell yourself it meant nothing. Even if you replay it, like a scene with no weight, something inside you knows that's not the full story. And no, it's not about guilt. It's not about what society says. It's about what your brain does. Because your mind is not built for detachment. You can rationalize. You can repeat the script, but your nervous system already wrote its own. This is what experts call an intimacy imprint. A deep, unconscious mark formed by vulnerability, exposure, and touch. You don't have to love someone for your brain to register the moment. One encounter is enough to leave a footprint. And here's the part no one tells you. Sometimes, one night rewires everything. If you've ever wondered why certain encounters stay with you long after they should have faded, then this channel explores the psychology behind what no one else talks about. Subscribe now, because understanding your mind's hidden patterns is the first step to reclaiming control over your emotional life. Here's the truth nobody likes to admit. Every time you're physically intimate with someone, your brain doesn't treat it as just sex. There's no off switch. No clean line between the physical and the emotional. You might say you can keep it casual. You might tell yourself it means nothing. But your brain is not designed for that kind of detachment. Because the moment your body connects with someone else, something activates. Dopamine floods in, the reward chemical that makes you crave more. Oxytocin releases, the hormone that builds trust and attachment. And serotonin shifts your mood, giving you that temporary high. This isn't just a feeling. It's your brain chemistry, firing in real time. These chemicals do more than regulate pleasure. They create emotional memory. They hardwire connections. Even a passing encounter can leave a scar beneath the surface. Because every time you touch someone, your brain leaves a record. You don't just move on. You carry them. Sometimes as a memory. Sometimes as a comparison. Sometimes as a lingering emptiness you can't explain. This is what we call an emotional fingerprint. Something left behind that you never consciously agreed to keep. You didn't just sleep with someone. Your mind logged it. Your body stored it. And when the high fades, because it always does, something else takes its place. Sometimes it's confusion. Sometimes sadness. Sometimes a vague sense of loss. There's a name for this. Post-hookup depression. It happens more often than people admit. Because when the chemicals crash and there's no real emotional bond, the mind is left searching for something that isn't there. In some cases, this leads to trauma bonding, a dangerous pattern where pain and pleasure mix, where the brain starts associating intensity with intimacy, even when the relationship is toxic or one-sided. You start chasing connection, but find yourself stuck in cycles of craving, withdrawal, and regret. This isn't about weakness. This is how the human brain processes closeness. It links touch with trust, vulnerability with value. And when those signals are sent without emotional alignment, your sense of connection begins to distort. The more it happens, the more it rewires you. And over time, that wiring shapes your behavior, your choices, your capacity to bond. You think you're in control, but the brain has been quietly building patterns. Repeat a pattern long enough, and your brain starts calling it love. And before you realize it, something in you has changed. You've been reshaped by moments you thought were meaningless. When you share your body with someone, you don't just share skin. You share energy. And that energy doesn't disappear when the moment ends. It lingers, sometimes as a memory, other times as something heavier, something harder to explain. Science tells us that human touch impacts more than just mood. It regulates your nervous system. It alters your heart rate. It changes your internal chemistry. But there's another layer, one science is just beginning to understand. Every person carries a unique emotional frequency. And when you connect physically, your systems begin to synchronize. Your breath aligns. Your heart rate shifts. Your emotional rhythms begin to match. This is called resonance. And once it's set in motion, it leaves a trace. This is emotional resonance. It's what happens when their energy stays behind, when their voice echoes in your thoughts without warning, when a scent or song pulls you into a memory you didn't choose to revisit. These aren't random. They're emotional ghosts, echoes of a moment your body hasn't fully released. We assume that moving on physically means moving on emotionally, but the nervous system doesn't work that way. The deeper the intimacy, the stronger the imprint. And even if you feel fine on the surface, there's often a residue left behind. What some call soul residue. The subtle emotional weight that's not entirely yours, but it still clings to you. And if you keep collecting these connections without reflection, your emotional space gets crowded, layered with energies that don't belong. That's why some encounters leave you feeling calm, while others leave you anxious, drained, or numb. You didn't just exchange affection. You exchanged emotional data. You exchanged part of yourself, and that part doesn't always come back the same. The patterns we're uncovering reveal why so many people feel lost after intimate connections. If you're ready to understand the psychology behind these invisible exchanges, subscribe and turn on notifications. What comes next will show you exactly how these emotional imprints reshape who you become. There's something no one prepares you for: the slow breakdown of the self, not from one dramatic event, but from the accumulation of small, disconnected moments that never get resolved. Every time you give yourself to someone without presence, without intention, you leave a part of yourself behind. It may be invisible, but it's real. And over time, those parts don't always come back. This is emotional fragmentation, the gradual separation between who you are and what you've shared. You don't notice it at first. You still feel like yourself. But piece by piece, something shifts. You begin to feel hollow after connection, numb when you should feel warmth, restless in moments that should bring peace. It's like listening to music through a broken speaker. The song is still playing, but the emotion doesn't reach you. Because when you connect and disconnect repeatedly without emotional integration, your system starts to lose coherence. You become used to detachment. You begin to expect disconnection, and that rewires how you experience closeness altogether. You start protecting yourself from feeling too much. You start editing your vulnerability. You kiss without warmth. You laugh while already looking for the exit. The result: you stop recognizing the difference between attention and intimacy. Not because you can't have it, but because you've conditioned yourself not to need it. And here's the hard part. Most people don't realize this is happening until it's already done. Until they find themselves with people they care about, but can't fully feel. So let me ask you this. Are you still a whole person, or have you become a mosaic of fragments left in places you never meant to stay? This is the true cost of emotional repetition without reflection. It doesn't just change how you relate to others. It changes who you become when you're alone. Modern culture has sold you a beautiful illusion. That intimacy is just a physical act, that you can give your body without giving anything else, that you can disconnect as easily as you connect. But here's the truth. The body might move on, but the mind remembers. We were never built for meaningless repetition. Yet the world keeps telling you otherwise. It tells you freedom means detachment, that more options equal more power, that if it feels good in the moment, nothing else matters. This is the lie. The more you consume intimacy without depth, the more hollow the experience becomes. It's like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier your soul becomes. But afterward, you feel worse than when you started. And over time, your system forgets what real nourishment feels like. This is desensitization. Repeated exposure to surface-level connection begins to dull your emotional receptors. It's the same mechanism behind addiction. What once moved you now barely registers. And so, you chase more. Not because it fulfills you, but because you can't feel much without it. And it's not just the encounters. It's what surrounds you. Social media, dating apps, pornography. They all train your brain to separate connection from emotion, to treat people like profiles, to swipe through intimacy like entertainment. You start to see attention as affection, validation as value, and bodies as currency. And in the end, you forget what it feels like to simply be seen. But the soul does not adapt to that pace. The soul begins to retreat. It waits for something real. And if it never comes, you stop listening to it. This is how emotional anesthesia works. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually. Each unprocessed experience dulls your internal response. Until one day, even when someone offers something genuine, you can't feel it. Because numbness isn't a shield. It's a symptom, and it often means something inside you has already shut down. Here's what no one tells you. If you disconnect enough times, eventually, it becomes your default setting. At first, it feels like control. You tell yourself you're just being careful, that you're protecting your space, that you've learned not to get attached. But over time, the truth emerges. You haven't become stronger. You've become numb. This is emotional flatlining. It's when you're with someone who cares about you, and you feel nothing. When you look into someone's eyes, and instead of warmth, all you feel is silence. At some point, you trained yourself to disconnect on demand, to edit out the emotion, to touch without feeling, to be close without being present. And now, even when you want to feel something real, you can't. That's not strength. That's scar tissue, where your emotions used to be. It's what I call immunity to intimacy. Not because you're resilient, but because your system has stopped responding. You're not immune because you healed. You're immune because you shut down. The danger isn't that love hurts you. The danger is that one day it won't affect you at all. And that's when you lose the most important part of being human. The ability to feel, to connect, to care deeply. You become a version of yourself that can function, but not bond. You know how to perform affection, but not how to receive it. And the scariest part is, you might not even notice it's happened until someone offers you love, and it slips through your fingers like a language you forgot how to speak. Nothing we share with another person is ever truly free. Every moment of intimacy leaves a mark. Sometimes it's soft, even beautiful. Other times, it's silent and heavy. But it always leaves something. And the longer you ignore that, the more expensive it becomes. Because over time, you're not just giving your body, you're giving pieces of your identity. Until one day, the mirror reflects someone who looks like you, but no longer feels like home. So ask yourself, where did you start to lose yourself? In what moment did you say, it was just fun, and not notice what it actually took from you? If this spoke to something you felt but never put into words, then you understand why exploring the deeper psychology of human connection matters. Subscribe to this channel for more insights into the hidden costs of modern intimacy. Each video reveals another layer of what it truly means to protect and reclaim your emotional integrity. The true price of intimacy isn't seen, it's felt. And understanding that difference is the first step toward choosing connections that heal rather than fragment. Because you are not broken. You're simply carrying the weight of moments that were never processed. And with awareness, that weight can finally be released.